everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of Cornwall Freemasons Lodge in the Lounge sessions. I'm Sebastian Oakley, the Provincial Communications Officer for the Province of Cornwall, and we're here at a COVID-safe and risk-assessed Red Roof Masonic Centre for our next interview. This week I'm interviewing Simon Taylor, the Provincial Membership Officer and Assistant Provincial Grand Director of Ceremonies of the Province of Cornwall. So Simon, you're obviously a familiar face to Lodge of the Lounge sessions. By welcoming the interviewees at this side of the table, we're going to ask you the same set of questions initially. So kicking off, how did you become a Freemason?
I became a Freemason in 2008. My long-time friend and then worshipful master of Druids Lodge, which is obviously in this temple here, was in a brass band with me in Helston, along with a number of other friends who were Masons, and they sort of started talking to me about it. And as time went on, it sort of gathered more interest, and my dad had previously been involved and still is involved in Masonry, and yeah, just one of those things that built from there. I always remember Jeremy at one point had messaged me with some wording along the lines of, I think you'd enjoy it no end, and yeah, he was certainly right.
Oh, definitely, certainly right. What has been your single best experience in Freemasonry?
I think that's a difficult one to answer because there have been some really good experiences across all areas of Freemasonry. Obviously, the first, second, third degrees, taking the chair, but for me would probably have to be working as a Lodge Director of Ceremonies for the Lodge of the Chisel, who were the new University Lodge for Cornwall. And it was only our third meeting, and we were honoured to have with us the Assistant Grand Master, Sir David Wootton, who's the Chairman of the University scheme, along with our Provincial Grand Master, Deputy, Assistant Provincial Grand Masters, huge array of Grand and Provincial officers and attending brethren, and we carried out a quintuple second degree ceremony. So as DC, that was certainly quite an experience to sort of oversee that meeting.
No, I bet it was. Sounds absolutely fantastic. The third question is, where is the most memorable place you have visited in Freemasonry?
Well, I think having asked this question to a number of our previous interviews, I would have to concur with everyone and say basically Grand Lodge takes some beating, but in Cornwall, King Arthur's Hall takes some doing.
Definitely. Not including your current position, what would you say has been your most enjoyable role in Freemasonry?
I would definitely say my most enjoyable and also my most memorable role was the first year of being Worshipful Master of my Mother Lodge.
No names or locations, but what is the most unique raffle prize you have ever won?
This has actually come up already, so it must be a Cornish thing, but I won a brace of pheasant, completely unprepared. They were literally, I'm sure they were just shot that this afternoon and brought along to the meeting and donated as a raffle prize. But yeah, that was certainly the most unique prize I've ever won.
Certainly, I think I recall. I think those pheasants have done the rounds quite a bit, I think. Yeah. If you could give one bit of advice to new members, what would it be?
I think it would be to allow yourself to naturally evolve into Freemasonry at a tempo that suits you as an individual. I think there's a lot of talk about when is the right time to do something or not to do something, but it really all comes down to the individual. I think if you are keen to progress, if you're keen to get involved, or likewise if you just want to sit back and take it all in, I think that's the important thing, is that whatever you're doing, that you're enjoying it. So naturally evolve at a tempo that suits you, and as I said, if you're enjoying it, you're on the right track.
Yeah. Could you tell us a bit more about your role as Provincial Membership Officer?
Yeah, it's quite a wide-ranging role. I spend a lot of time speaking with lodges and working with lodges on the United Grand Lodge of England membership pathway scheme, which is quite an in-depth 11-step process for speaking to potential members and looking after members all the way through their joining ceremonies, and then once they become a fully engaged member. And that, as it happens, that pathway scheme is about to get a revamp, which will take into account all of the chaos that COVID has caused us over the last 12 to 18 months, and that's actually a really exciting new project that's coming out in the autumn, so we'll be quite heavily involved in that. I spend a lot of time working with the Provincial Grand Mentor, Brother Eugene Clements, just looking after the overall mentorship and membership aspect, because they kind of go hand in hand, at a lodge level. One of the perhaps the most enjoyable parts of my role is speaking to prospective members who make inquiries about Freemasonry through either the Provincial Grand Lodge website or the United Grand Lodge of England website, and I spend quite a lot of time speaking to them and getting to know them before I look to introduce them to certain lodges, because I think it's very important as members that we have the right people joining the right lodges, because every lodge, as we know, is different, and there are different characteristics and different profiles of lodges, the number of times they meet, the number of meeting rehearsals that they have, the nights of the week they meet. So it's very important, and hopefully once I send these prospective people to the lodges, they're already in a good place with Freemasonry, because they know that what they're going to is going to suit their needs. Again, I haven't been able to do much of it, as of any of us, but I also go to a lot of the trade shows and the county shows that you as the communications officer help to organise, and come along to white table events, and just basically try and promote Freemasonry in Cornwall as best as I can, and also to help lodges, individuals and the province with the general recruitment and retention of our membership.
That's fantastic, Simon. That's a really good insight into the role. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us today.
Pleasure.
Thank you for always watching. We'll be back with another episode next week. In the meantime, stay safe.